Work it, girls. I'm sure Biggie is watching.
I don't know. I just don't want to be fat no more.
Then stop eating chicken.
Where's the chicken? You let somebody do that to your head.
I'm fat. You fat. Luther Vandross fat. Your mama fat. Okay, cool. I'm back. This video was supposed to be out last week. Clearly that did not happen. My laptop decided to erase all of it. So I had to start from scratch, but nevertheless, it's here. Part 2, stay on topic episode of The Nutty Professor. Now that we got all the introductory stuff out of the way in the last video, we have more time to really talk about the story and go through the story. Let's see how much I can stay on topic. I actually have nothing after that. Let's just get started. So we kind of left off talking about how much I adore the dinner scene and how much I love Eddie Murphy's work in this scene. And kind of finishing up with it, basically they go back and forth and Sherman talks about how much he wants to lose weight, and of course his dad is talking about how stupid it is, and his mom tries to kind of make him feel included by talking about colon cleansing, like, oh, that's scientific. And Sherman's a scientist, this will make him feel better. And all of that just completely gets ruined when Sherman's dad just starts farting out of defiance, I guess you could call it. The farting here is kind of controversial. Now, if you ask somebody like me, I think it's hilarious. Farting has always been funny to me. I'm childish. Sue me, whatever. I laugh at this scene every time it comes on. In other movies, when farting is used out of random, just completely out of the blue, or it's even just used tastefully, it's hilarious. Now, if you're trying to use farting just like, oh, well, I feel like this isn't funny enough, so I just need to add a fart, that's untasteful. It's not funny to me. But in this scenario, it is funny to me, right? Wow, I'm sitting here talking about how to justify fart jokes and that they're funny. What has my life become? Anyway, Jerry Lewis, the original Nutty Professor, was supposed to make a cameo in this movie and reportedly kind of pulled out of it and decided not to do the cameo after he looked through the script and saw that there were fart jokes in this version of the Nutty Professor. Well, it's his loss. You know, it's subjective humor. You don't have to like fart jokes. But hey, I just think Jerry Lewis made a terrible decision. And no matter what anybody ever tells me, fart jokes are the future. That's all I have to say. Now, remember earlier when I described Sherman's mother as kind of your stereotypical black mom? Well, she really kind of puts that forward in this next scene after the dinner. She basically tells Sherman that she notices that he's acting all sad and depressed and gives him this uplifting black mom speech about how God made him the way he was supposed to be and there's nothing he can't do. And if you know about these speeches, they really will gas you up. They will give you all the confidence you need. Your mama just telling you like, hey, you're greater than you think you are. And sometimes that's all you need to hear. So in this specific scenario, it is what Sherman needed to hear to make a hazardously horny, terrible decision.
No. Professor?
Bruh. Disastrous idea, very creepy, hazardously horny. Like, I get that moms can instill this temporary confidence in you and whatnot, but bro, Sherman just met this woman like 5 hours ago or something, and he got the bright idea to look up her address and not give her a call. Went to this walked to this woman's house, apartment, whatever, and was like, hey, will you go on a date with me? That's crazy. That's some disturbing behavior right there. But hey, movie has got to movie, I guess. And she accepts him kind of sort of awkwardly asking her on a date. Adorable, right? No, not really. So here's the thing. I always say how I don't really like this character. I don't. When he asks her on a date, even though they don't really know each other like this, which makes this creepy, I feel like she has enough of an idea of who Sherman is based off their one interaction and how awkward he is. Yet, when he asks about going on a date with her, she chooses this place that she only knows of because college kids go there. Now, I don't know about you, but I used to be a college kid, and I know where college kids like to hang out. It's nowhere that human life should be found at. It's very, very, very dangerous to your self-confidence as well as your well-being. And she wants to take this 35-year-old professor with weight problems and low self-esteem to somewhere that college kids like to hang out. That's just not smart. I don't think any normal person would make that decision. But hey, here we are. Let's keep going. I don't know if I'm saying this for the first time or the fifth time, but I really love Sherman's character. He's so relatable. Like, it's kind of what you always want to shoot for your main character, somebody that's relatable somehow. It's why Spider-Man is my favorite superhero and one of the most popular superheroes. Just about anybody can relate to Peter Parker. It's why the Joker movie is so beloved, even though it's about a guy who becomes a murdering maniac. It's a beloved movie because even though there's this guy that's doing despicable things, you can relate to the things that happen to him and how he becomes the Joker. So, in a sense, I really like that about Sherman. He musters up the courage to go ask out this woman that he thinks is attractive. Already talked about that. We're not going to talk about how creepy it is again. But nevertheless, he gets the date and he comes home and he does what any regular person would do. He celebrates. He gets home, he turns on his 50 lamps, he turns on some Teddy P, and he starts dancing. That's just about what anybody would do if they met their crush one day and that same night they asked him out and got a yes. It's a great scene just to see him happy and singing to his pot pie and just hanging out and being happy. And it's hilarious that his downstairs neighbor is always mad at him because he's fat. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about how much I love this scene. Love it. Love the relatability here, man. Love it. After Sherman's endorphins calm down a little bit, we get to see just how deep-rooted Sherman's insecurities are. He sits down, he's just watching some TV, and he can't even daydream without his daydreaming getting hijacked by his own low self-esteem. He's like watching Baywatch or something, and he envisions himself running through the sand and laying down and making out with Jada Pinkett Smith. And he's so fat that when he lays on top of her, he buries her in the sand and basically kills her. That's like the funniest, most depressing thing ever. That's what comes to mind. And so that kind of motivates him even more to be like, I need to not be fat. So then I can actually be, attractive and wantable and worth something. So he's putting all his self-worth in not being fat. So he does something about it, which is cool. He goes to work out, and we get a great montage. Now, I'll be the first to say that I'm not a fan of montages, probably because I've seen a lot of movies that use montages kind of as a crutch. They use montages just to either sweep something away that they don't really want to address or to move the story along faster without doing the work to build the story. At this point in this movie, I feel like there's enough going on where we know Sherman enough and we know what's going on, and it doesn't feel like they're hiding any plot points behind the montage to move the plot along. We see Sherman, the main character, who wants to do something about being fat, so he is. it would be boring to spend entire scenes on Sherman at the gym. So they're giving us a montage. It makes sense, right? And it's really, really funny to watch him in some of these scenarios where he's just doing his best. You know, he's struggling up the stairs again. He's eating a Snickers bar. He's getting acupuncture. And my favorite scene is him standing on the trampoline, and he can't use the trampoline because he's fat. And so I think it's a really good, really well done montage. Great music in the background. I'm so excited. And it really just kind of makes you feel good about him, especially at the end where he gets to the top of the stairs and he's celebrating, and it just makes you feel good for him, man. It's like, good for you, Sherman. Good for you, man. He's getting ready for his date. You go, dude. You go. So we're at the date, and it doesn't take long for you at all to realize that Sherman is a fish out of water, which is also what Carla Purdy should have understood at the get-go before they even went. They get there, and it's this super cramped nightclub, and Sherman's bumping into everybody he walks past, and they're spilling their drinks and breaking their glasses dramatically. And Sherman's just trying to keep an upbeat mood. And everything seems like it's going to be okay after they sit down and they're talking about science stuff, and she's saying how brilliant he is, and he feels all gushy and excited, and like she puts her hand on him, and you know that's enough for Sherman to feel like he's made it to third base for all he knows, right? Because you can kind of see it on his face. And then everything takes a huge turn, right? Dave Chappelle comes out. He's playing this comedian named Reggie, and Dave Chappelle's amazing in this movie. He's not your normal run-of-the-mill stand-up comedian. He comes out, he has one original joke about women be shopping, and after that he just starts unloading on everybody in the crowd and just cracking on everybody. And of course, when he gets to Sherman, he stays on Sherman for the rest of the night. Fat jokes after fat jokes after fat jokes, and it just completely destroys Sherman. All the motivation that he had built up in the last few scenes with his mom talking to him and him exercising and him getting the date, yeah, that's all gone. He just completely gets ethered in front of a club full of people, and some of them probably his students again. And you can tell he's about to cry. Kind of feel bad for him, but it's also hard not to laugh because Dave Chappelle is just great in this scene. Amazing. Having a heart, even a jaded black heart like mine, means that you will feel bad for Professor Sherman Klump after the date scene. You can just tell, he doesn't even have to say that he feels like crap. You can see it all over his face, his body language. Excellent acting from Eddie Murphy, of course, per usual. And it also makes me in particular dislike Carla Purdy even more. She says absolutely nothing to really make him feel better or comfort him after he just got embarrassed in front of hundreds of people. He's sitting there literally looking like he's about to cry. He's hanging his head low. He's not really talking much. And all she can say is, hey, don't forget, you're really smart. And she gives him a handshake and just goes inside. It's kind of annoying to me, but you know. So he feels so bad about himself. It's like pouring down raining, and he doesn't even feel the need to cover himself in the rain because he's not worth it. Super sad, man. Super sad stuff. My guy goes home to binge eat himself into a coma, since that's clearly how he copes with his depression. And even doing that, he can't even get his mind off of how worthless he feels like he is. Again, his mind is hijacked by his sense or his lack of self-worth. And he's watching TV, he falls asleep, and he ends up having this nightmare about him being a monster, like Godzilla. And I used to watch this thing as a kid, by the way. And I'll be like, man, it would be so cool if like the Dragon Zord came from around the corner and like Sherman and the Dragon Zord started fighting. Yeah, 1990s fantasies and whatnot. Man, you could put like Power Rangers in anything and it would be a cool crossover. Okay, I'm off topic. Yeah, he has this terrible nightmare about himself feeling like him feeling like a monster basically to everyone around him. And he wakes up and that is kind of the trigger where he's like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I've tried everything. I've tried losing weight. I've tried, being bold and going on dates, and nothing is working. I still feel like crap. So he goes to the next best thing in his mind, which is where the substance abuse comes in. As this is the last straw for Sherman, he decides to go to the lab to come up with his shortcut to not be fat anymore and by extension not be unhappy anymore. Earlier in the movie they kind of foreshadowed this with this fat gerbil named Shelly, or hamster. It's hamster. This fat hamster named Shelly, where he talks about he's came up with this formula where the hamster is losing body mass with these small doses. But here, Sherman's going to take a large dose of this formula that has not even ever been tested on humans, which shows how desperate he is. And at this point, I just want to say shout out to David Newman, who is the composer of this movie. He does a great job with this score of framing these scenes with the right tone. Whether it's Sherman just walking around, there's this little bumbling tune, or when Sherman's sad after the date and there's this slow piano playing in the background, to this scene where Sherman is making this decision and you can feel how tense it is, or how Sherman feels, how the magnitude of it, because there's this tense dun, 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 in the background where you just know that something tense is happening. You can just kind of feel the tone of the movie through the score. And that's always what you kind of want to shoot for with the score of a movie. So shout out to him, man. Sherman resorts to taking drugs for all intents and purposes to deal with his problems. I don't think I have to harp about why this is a bad idea and why it's a good theme, a good underlying theme for a movie like this. Of course, there will be more as this goes on that I can speak on how this ends up crashing and burning, and how it's kind of a good lesson on why you should not do something like this. But in a story aspect, what we've been seeing is kind of a normal day in Sherman's life, which is all coming to a head for him to make this decision. Right? We've been seeing our main character's story, a day in the life. But what we didn't know is this is also, for the most part, the main antagonist's origin story. Interesting, right? Well, we'll have to catch up more on that in the next episode. Peace.